morning, everyone, and welcome to another webinar. We're very glad to have you all joining us today. I'm really excited to do this webinar today because the topic is a little bit different. Often I host webinars where it's a particular company, and I'd like to, go through the assets and the opportunity there. This time we're tackling it from a little different angle, which is capital markets groups. And capital markets groups are they a bit of an enigma? I'm not sure what the best word is to describe them, but they're a very important force in the mining space, especially when you're talking about incubating and supporting junior companies off the get-go and through the exploration stages. So if someone could pull my presentation up, that would be great. And I'll start. I just have a short presentation to go through, just sort of describing what capital markets groups are and why they're so important. So I mean, the bottom line is it takes a team, and it takes a team in most things in investing. It's hard to do everything on your own or to understand all the opportunities on your own. But when it comes to incubating companies, I think that is even more of a thing. So, okay, so junior mining investing, it's hard. There's a lot of different factors that have to align for that investment approach to work. So you need obviously the market fundamentals to work, and then you need a good portfolio, and you probably need a little bit of luck as well. In developing that good portfolio, you need a whole bunch of layers of knowledge, right? So you need to understand the macroeconomics. You need to have at least some understanding of geology, which is, I mean, people can spend their whole lives studying that and still only understand a drop in the bucket of the geologic world. So that's a big ask. Then you need to understand the capital market side, the importance of corporate structure, how capital is raised, how market support is developed, things like that. You need to understand jurisdiction, the real risks, the perceived risks, how that's going to impact the story. You need to understand the various people who are involved. Do they have the focus, the experience, the networks that are needed to drive this story forward? I've put two share price charts on here because I think I'm not trying to pick on anyone, but I think they perhaps can demonstrate some of the ways that capital markets, good capital markets groups can help. So the share price chart on the left, the not so exciting share price chart, that's for Heart Gold, and they put a mine in production, and they've had a series of challenges with that mine, both engineering challenges, and they've had capital markets challenges, they've had debt structure challenges. And then the share price chart on the right is for K92 Mining, which has been a darling success story in the market for sure, but it came from a solid capital markets group. Is that the reason that it succeeded and Heart Gold failed? No, not on its own, but it's absolutely a factor. So a good capital markets group isn't a guarantee of success, but it certainly helps. So I started that by saying you need all of these things to be a successful junior mining investor. Well, it's just as hard, or arguably even harder, from the other side, from the management side. If you're in a good market, like we are right now, it's really hard to find good people. You need geologists, you need legal people, you need accounting people, you need marketing people. They're very hard to find. If you want to try and find a good corporate communications person for a junior mining company right now, good luck to you. There's very few people out there. It's hard to find good projects, obviously, available at appropriate prices. If you have a project or a private company and you want to take these things public, it's very difficult to find good, clean public company shells that are available with the right structure and price and things like that. And it's hard to raise sticky money. There's lots of available money out there, but a lot of it can be pretty fast. So it enters and exits quickly. That's not going to help your stock in the long run. You want to have sticky money, and so you need to, it's hard to find that. You need to have the right avenues to tap. And then when markets are bad, which they are half the time, right? There's a whole host of other challenges that the junior mining investor doesn't really have to face because you just leave while the markets are bad. But those who are in the management side have to try and stick it through, because that's where you create the opportunities that you then run with in the strong markets, right? But in those bad markets, it's really hard to hold on to your good assets because it costs. It's hard to keep the costs that are just inherent in a public company down to a manageable level. And you need to, because it's really hard to raise money. So it's hard to be a successful investor. It's just as hard, or perhaps harder, to be on the management side in a junior mining company. So that's where capital markets groups really step into the fold here. They pool the knowledge, the access to projects, the networks of contacts, the ideas, the access to capital, and just the experiences of a group of market professionals. what I was trying to lay out there before was the statement that to make it in junior mining requires a lot of different abilities. And every single person in mining has a strength or a couple strengths, but it takes a whole team to cover all of those different abilities. And that's what the capital markets groups offer. As a group, they can bring together the strong technical abilities, the global reach based in terms of geologic knowledge, jurisdictional experience, investing networks, the strong networks. I mean, you need to be able to tap geologists of a whole different specialties. When I said, you know, you can spend a lifetime learning geology and still only really be an expert in one drop in the geologic world, well, that's true. So if you pick up a project that is a particular kind of geology, you need to know someone who knows that geology. So that's the kind of, the more people you know, the better chance you have of finding those experts. You need to have connections at major mining companies, whether that's in order to pull assets out of their closets, whether that's to talk to them about their past experience in an area, whether that's to assess their level of interest in potentially buying an asset down the road. You need to have connections at major mining companies, and you need to have a history established with money. There's lots of money out there, but you need to have a history established with them. The more good players you have on your team, the more likely you can cover all of these bases, right? And so if you do cover all of these bases, then the goal is that you end up with well-structured companies with sticky shareholders and active market support. That's essential. And then that group has access to the capital needed to do the exploration on the good project or projects that team of people has been able to gather together in the bear market because they pooled their resources and made it happen. That they collectively have deep and relevant technical expertise around those projects and those geologies. And they're not making it up as they go along. They've done this before. They've, you know, started a company, told the story, raised the capital, advanced the project, told the story again, raised more capital at a higher price. They know how to do it. That's what I mean by a well-oiled marketing machine. I don't mean that they're just throwing money at marketing. I mean, they understand how to market, how to tell the story, and how important it is to do that. So that really matters. It's efficiency and it's effectiveness, right? Then they have basic things like efficient offices, because you can share administrative support, you can share accounting, you can share legal, and these sorts of things that that you don't need full time, but you absolutely need access to. And then you have overlapping shareholder groups. So if there's 4 different groups with 4 different companies within a capital markets group, then it's quite likely that success in company A will encourage those investors to be interested in companies B, C, and D. And then B, C, and D can perhaps leverage success from the others in the group as they go along. And it really also means that you are much more likely to have interest from the market in your new deal right out the gate. And that really helps because mining markets happen in a flash. The good markets sort of start and you need to be running as soon as the market starts because it's not going to last that long. A few years goes by very quickly, especially if you are, you know, weather limited and when you can explore and things like this. And so if you have a deal that you want to debut, if you take a year to get it organized, to find the shell, to attract the initial interest, to get it listed, you've lost a third of the time. I mean, I'm making up numbers, but you've lost a good chunk of the bull market opportunity for which you were preparing this stock. So if you can come from a really solid base and have that well-oiled machine and that good structure and get it going quickly, your odds of success out the gate are simply higher. A couple of examples. Today we're going to hear about some of the companies in Inventa Capital and how Inventa Capital came together and how it does all of the things that I've just been describing. There's another group called Pathway Capital. They're sort of associated with and working from the Sandstorm offices. There's a list of some of the companies right now that are out there that are Pathway Capital stemming companies: Pucara, Eclipse, Sunpeak, Kingfisher, another good host of companies right there. There's certainly the Discovery Group. They're a more well-known. I would say they probably started almost more as a technical group, sharing geologic knowledge, but they have absolutely become a capital markets group where they share directors and access to capital and ideas, and leverage each other's success very well. And then there's groups that don't necessarily have a name, but that absolutely exist. So Doug Forster and Blaine Johnson, I mean, they started Newmarket, they sold it to Kirkland Lake. Now they have several different companies that they are advancing or are involved with. And that is, maybe it doesn't have a name like Inventa, but it's a capital markets group as well. And same with K92, that was that first example that I showed as one of the, or as a share price chart that worked and was probably supported in an important way by a capital markets group. That team also has a host of companies out in the market right now, and they're always incubating more. Leviathan is one that is just in the incubation stages right now. So all of these companies offer up the things that I have listed here. So track records of success, well-structured deals, good assets, effective marketing, focused and driven management, access to capital. What's the takeaway here? Well, follow the people. And that's an interesting statement because, you know, it's very common in the investing world to say, start with the people. And absolutely, you need to start with the people. But this is perhaps a layer of consideration in that conversation that you need to add in. So it's not just who is the president and what has he or she done, but it is who are they involved with, who are they supported by, and is that sufficient or is that lacking? And if there is a good capital markets group in the mix, that certainly increases my odds of looking at an asset that's coming out the gate. So that's my preamble. I want to just take a few minutes now to chat with Craig Parry. So Craig is one of the two founding partners of Inventa Capital. Craig, why don't you take us back to when you and Michael put Inventa together? So what was your backstory? What other expertise did you need to take advantage of the market? How did it all begin?
Yeah, sure, Gwen. No, and thank you for having us on. Mike and I started Inventa a couple of years ago, around 3 years ago. We started off, and it was sort of happenstance in a way. We had that cobalt boom going on. Mike had some great ideas for cobalt, and I backed him financially. We started Cobalt One. I think we were probably the only successful exit during that last cobalt boom. I think, you know, I wrote Mike a check for about $130,000, which he very quickly turned into a sale for $15 million for us. So it was an outstanding outcome, you know, we got along like a house on fire, and have been working together ever since on other deals. And Inventa came out of that process and what we did there with Cobalt One. So you know, that's the backstory. You know, a little bit about myself for those who don't know. I'm a geologist. I spent 9 years with Rio Tinto before partnering with Owen Hegarty to start the Tigers Realm group of companies, EMR Capital. We seeded up and helped Lee Courier get NextGen going, and of course that's been a tremendous success. I'm still running our spin out of NextGen ISO Energy, of course, which we've got a great discovery there at the Hurricane deposit. Meanwhile, Mike was working, you know, he'd done a business degree, working in investor relations and management of companies. But Mike's, you know, quite extraordinary. His knowledge of the markets and projects, particularly in the Americas, is like nothing else I've ever seen. So, you know, it was a natural fit for us to come together. I'd come out of that Tigers Realm group, and you talk about these, capital groups, if you like. Tigers Realm was one of those capital groups. I think, you know, we raised about 300 million during the last boom. Bit of bad timing there because, of course, you know, 2013 came along, markets tanked, and it became very, very difficult. But I'm carrying some of those lessons, hard-won lessons and knowledge across to what we're doing at Inventa.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and when I talk about people having experience, it's not just the successful experiences that matter. For sure, the hard lessons are just as important. Hopefully, they carry through to not being repeated. So now you have Inventa, and Inventa is sort of growing in leaps and bounds. And I get the sense when I chat with you, you know, you and Michael and the team that you've developed at Inventa, you collectively have a very strong network, and that just means that you have eyes on or leads on a lot of different projects that look exciting. And so, yeah, just sort of talk me through the process of how that works. I mean, it seems to lead. Yeah, what do you do when you get your eyes on a project? How do you think through the process of bringing that opportunity forward?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I suppose, you know, we've got two approaches: things that we generate ourselves, that we, you know, search through global databases, knowledge of terrains that lead us to certain areas and to doing things. You know, that a good example of that was the little gem project that we brought into Cobalt 1 and sold, you know, generated from first principles. The other approach is, of course, you know, you get a lot of things coming across your desk, projects. We probably see 10 a day. So, you know, and it's very important to have a very good technical team that can quickly work through those things. And work out what may work and may not. So you've got to, you know, have a very fast filter. And a good example of one of those was the Panuco project, which we have in Vizsla. Panuco, you know, we saw that you typically end up in your inbox or on your desk a pile of these sort of submittals from companies and people wanting to do deals. And that one was sitting somewhere down sort of a, you know, 20 down a pile of 50 type thing. But when we looked at it, we thought, holy, you know, that's extraordinary. This thing's been in production for 450 years. It's got high grade mineralization everywhere that hasn't been drilled out. So it was a very sort of, you know, the minute we saw it, I think we booked the plane flights down to Mazatlán in Mexico and jumped on the plane and went to see it. But you know, you need to have that sort of background, I suppose, to work out what may and may not work and filter it very quickly.
Absolutely. And then now you have a cadre of companies who are all, you know, some are listed, some are, you know, well into the exploration process, some are sort of brand new, some are still incubating and haven't even come to market yet. Talk a little bit about the role that being part of the group plays for those companies. I mean, there must be, you know, sharing of knowledge, just support and experience and things like that. Is that pretty pertinent? Does that matter? Does that help?
Look, it absolutely does, because of course you know, you don't need some companies, depending on the stage of project you've got, you may not need a full team on it. So having all of that back office capability, very important. As you say, you know, accountants, legal, company secretarial is incredibly important. We're very fortunate. We've got a lady by the name of Jen Hansen on our team who's, you know, best in class, I think. So, you know, very important to have those. And as you say, investor relations has become very hard to find people you know, in that field today with the sort of mini boom or the start of the boom we're in. So having all of that in position is important. But, you know, and as you say, it's a mixture of all of those things, access to people, very importantly, access to capital markets and knowing what to do there. And that's been, you know, probably moving to Canada 5 years ago, that's been my biggest lesson is, you know, how to access those markets and how to run a market on a company, if you like. In that you need, you know, you want you must have your investors make money from the get-go, or otherwise they don't invest with you again. So knowing what to do, you know, how to price a deal, close a deal, well, that sort of thing. So very, very important.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny, you sort of preempted my next question there. I'll still go to part of it, which is the speed of getting these things out the gate. I noticed you nodding a bit when I was talking about how important it is to get deals once you've seen an opportunity, acquired the asset, and figured out how you're bringing it to market. Being able to do it quickly is pretty important, right?
Crucial. You must be able to do it quickly. You know, you've got to have some vision. This is something that I, you know, hold Mike in great esteem for us. He's very visionary in terms of what's coming next for metals. You know, we could all see copper coming, you know, for the last few years, but looking at something like cobalt or nickel or even silver in recent times, Mike's sort of well ahead of the game. So we've already got a bead on projects around the world that we think might suit. You know, will be the projects, of course, have to stand alone in their own right and be very, very good. So that's crucial. But knowing what the market might be looking for next is important. But you're right, speed to getting those deals done. I must say that at the moment, there's so much going on, and of course with COVID, the process to get a deal through an exchange at the moment has slowed right down, which is problematic, because if you're going to raise capital, sometimes that window is only open for a very, very short period of time. So to make something work, you know, you've got to be able to move quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting, this conversation. I mean, I think we could go on forever. I'll probably wrap it up now, but I just wanted to sort of point out how a bunch of topics have been raised just in this quick conversation that are so commonly the things that I note missing in when I'm, you know, meeting a company for the first time and assessing it. You know, whether it's that focus, the focus on making money for the shareholders every step of the way, whether it's the vision on the macroeconomic side and the opportunity, whether it's understanding the need for speed, whether it's, you know, having the machinery that supports the opportunity to make sure it all happens. Really often some of these pieces are missing, right? And you need them all, otherwise it doesn't work. So yeah, it's not really a question, it's just a statement there, Craig.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, look, I would leave you with this. I suppose, you know, you've listed some of the very best groups out there. I would add, you know, Ivanhoe, Robert Friedland, of course, Ross Beatty, and the Lumina Copper Group, you know, levels above us at this point in time. But what we're trying to do with Inventa is really become one of the new leaders, one of the go-to groups that capital will come into the mining space. You know, we've got a team of brilliant young leaders and professionals, technical professionals. You'll hear from Cherie Leeden shortly. She's Cherie and I work together at Rio Tinto. I hold her in the highest regard as an industry leader. She has a hardcore focus on quality projects, technical aspects of things, and particularly ESG. And you must, you know, in this day and age, absolutely be hardcore focused on positive outcomes for communities and the environment. So, you know, we've got that in all of what we do. So, you know, we'd love to see Inventa join the ranks of Robert and Ross Beatty, and you know, someone like John Robbins, who I hold in very, very high stead as well. That's where we want to head.
Absolutely. And interesting, yeah, I hadn't included sort of the Friedland, Beatty. Those are the groups that are, I feel like, pretty well known. And so when you suggest follow the people already know about those. I was, yeah, coming down to the groups that are growing up into those shoes, so to speak. Thanks, Craig. I'm going to move over now to the other person who Craig mentioned frequently in his conversation, which is the other co-founder of Inventa Capital, and that's Michael Konnert. So Michael, maybe you can give us a little bit of a backstory, and then Michael's going to take us through two of the Inventa Group companies. Michael, take it away.
Well, thank you, Gwen, and thank you, Craig. That was an excellent summary of what we do and kind of how we got here. And like you say, it's really only just beginning for, I think, well, all these companies that we're talking about, and particularly Inventa. I see, you know, the future being very bright as we continue to kind of develop our not only the companies but the team that we have surrounding these companies as well. And as Craig mentioned, that's you know, that's been such a crucial part of it all. And so I think I like to say that I think that we're very lucky in people that we've been able to attract to these great projects, as well as the capital. And you know, so the Inventa team really, some Gwen, I think you may know Carlene. It really was just started with Carlene not so long ago, and now we've grown to a number of different CEOs and group members. So it's really it's a wonderful group to be part of. So, and yes, thanks for that, Craig and Gwen. So Vizsla Resources is a silver developer focused on the Copala Panuco district in Sinaloa, Mexico. We've had, you know, looking back, I suppose it's a good time to look back at 2020. It's been quite a transformational year for the company. We had a lot of ups and downs, both on the share price, you know, and kind of, you know, emotionally as we were there exploring for silver. We had, you know, such high expectations. We initially in the year we you know, were very excited to start drilling, and it wasn't until after the COVID shutdown that we actually had some exceptional success with drilling one of Mexico's top 5 drill results in many years at the Napoleon zone. So you know, that catapulted us forward, and of course we raised some significant capital from excellent shareholders, and we've continued to make a number of discoveries across the district. And what I'll probably talk about, I think probably a lot of the listeners are comfortable with the Vizsla story, but what I'll summarize it, but also just talk about how we are looking to basically add to those next steps, add to the pipeline of resources, execute the option, and move into a producing silver company through Vizsla. Okay. So of course I'll be making forward-looking statements. I think, as I said before, the best is yet to come for Vizsla, and that's a forward-looking statement. So our vision is to create a high margin, low cost producer of silver and gold. The way that we're going to do that is to discover and delineate resources in the Panuco camp, and after that, we'll execute the option, utilizing the project's excellent infrastructure and create a producing mining company out of that. And of course, we do have a focus on creating a safe and healthy environment for both our team and the communities, as well as engaging and creating meaningful value for our stakeholders. Vizsla is a well-structured company. We have about $135 million market cap today. You can see on the chart, I'm not a stock chart technician, but it looks like a triple bottom. I think that means it's going up. And of course, we have about 91 million shares outstanding. Fully diluted, that number goes to about 123 million. Now, that fully diluted number would also come with about $40 million in cash into our treasury. So it's important to keep that in mind when we talk about kind of the pathway to ownership of the mill. Now, we have an excellent shareholder base. Eric Sprott entered into the last financing at $1.87. Forced Sale, which is a fund that's known to be very technically, exclusive and does a lot of due diligence, joined in on this last financing, as well as Franklin out of San Francisco. So we have an A list of shareholders, and in addition to that, management, directors, and advisors of the company own a better part of a quarter of the stock. So very well held. Now, the reason that Eric and Forced Sale and Franklin and all these shareholders are attracted to Vizsla is because of the Panuco Silver District. And it's a very odd project to describe because we were the first group that actually consolidated. It's been in production for 450 years. It's been owned by Mexican mining families for modern history, and it's never been in this format. It's never been in a public company in the district as a whole. So we're very excited about it. It's a district scale project. We have a pathway to production through an operational mill, tailings, and permits, and all of those are under option to us. But geologically, it's really quite an exciting district. It has over 75 kilometers, essentially, of outcropping vein strike throughout the district, 35 kilometers of underground mines, and it sits in a district, sits in a trend, I should say, that includes First Majestic's San Dimas mine, which is about 80 kilometers to the north. And the odd part about this project is that there was never even a geology map when we got to Panuco, so we had to do that ourselves. And the three major points that I like to touch on when it comes to Vizsla, and the three main takeaways that I think are important. First of all is the size of the district. Second of all is the grade of the district. And the third is that pathway to production. So I think a good way to demonstrate the size of the district is what we've done here, which is on a 5-kilometer scale bar overlaying the vein fields over major cities in the world. So Vancouver in the top left, you can see basically stretches from the Richmond Airport to the Second Narrows Bridge. So it's sizable in that sense. Manhattan, it almost covers the island of Manhattan. London in the bottom left, and Hong Kong. So we are dealing with a very large district here. Another way to demonstrate, I think, the size and the potential here is how does this stack up to other major producing districts in Mexico? And Panuco's in the top left, again, that 5-kilometer scale bar, San Dimas to the right, Zacatecas, Fresnillo, Guanajuato, and Las Chispas. Now, I think it's important to point out as well that these districts are producing, they're established, they've been consolidated earlier, and they've had that exploration. In the case of Las Chispas, it's moving into production. But the other thing that these districts, aside from Panuco, have in common is they command significant market caps. All of these have in excess of $1 billion market cap. Now, to visualize what we've done with the consolidation, I think this map is quite useful for that. You can see actually the red veins cross property boundaries, in some cases multiple times. And so it was imperative for our group to have access to the entire district, and to be able to explore without having to kind of worry about concession boundaries and things like that. And so the orange is one family. It's called the company is called Rio Panuco, and then the hashed lighter color there, the white, is Silverstone. We have separate options with each group, and those are over. It's a long dated option over 6 years. The next major payment is due in late 2022, so we have a significant amount of time to continue to explore here. Now, the orange is where we've made our very high grade Napoleon discovery. It's also the concession and the ground that has the mill, and that's a $23 million option payment that we would make in order to enter into production and own that orange ground. Now we also have another option to acquire the Silverstone ground, and that's something that we could do immediately or over time. And as I mentioned, it has been a transformational year for Vizsla, and it was January of this year that we really first kicked off at the project. And as I said, there was no geology map. Charles Funk, our VPX, and his team did such a great job of basically starting a carte blanche at this district and doing the classic style prospect and mapping, sampling, all that work, to generate basically 3 main areas for us to drill. And we started off drilling on the Animus vein corridor, which is kind of that top right of the district there, but we made our discovery on the bottom left at the Napoleon area. Some of these grades that we found in sampling were just spectacular. Half a meter, 4.2 kilos at Cordon de Oro, many multi-kilo samples that we discovered here. And that's led us to our current discovery focus. So this is a great way to understand the district and how it breaks down. So the vein corridor on the western side of Napoleon is an area where we have 2 drill rigs turning right now. We've made the original Napoleon discovery, 6 meters of 8 kilos. And Napoleon to the north, a kilometer to the north, we've made another discovery at Papaya, multiple kilos of silver equivalent being discovered there. We've actually just moved another rig to the Tajitos area, which is just to the east of Napoleon, and we're having great success there. Recently, we just announced, I believe it was last week, we announced a brand new discovery at Cordon de Oro, and that's really, for me, that's been a huge win for the district and for the company, because it's completely opened up this other area. Cordon de Oro is essentially an analog to Animus, and I'll explain why that's important in a minute here. But Cordon de Oro has never been drilled. It's got old workings on it. It was kind of tricky. It gave us a lot of these high-grade samples, and we knew there was something there, but we kind of had to persist for a little while until we made that initial discovery. And so that discovery at AGUITA ZARCA is exactly that. We drilled 18 meters at pretty close to half a kilo silver equivalent there, and that's a kilometer away from the El Coco mill that we have under option just up the hill. It's an oxide material. It's really quite an impressive step forward for the company. And in addition to that, this kind of oxide material at surface, we believe there's significant potential for ore shoot discovery below what we've intersected here. And our 5th drill rig is turning at Peralta, which is in the southern portion, that little magenta dot at the southern portion of Cordon de Oro. And Animus is an important area in the district because it's the center of historical mining. There's been 8 ore shoots that have been mined down to the water table there, and it's the area where all of the drilling, all of the basically focus of any type of development has been done. There's a huge amount of infrastructure around that, but it also gives us kind of a bit of in a way, it's like a cheat code or a model to understand how Cordon de Oro or Napoleon acts in terms of the cadence of ore shoots across the vein corridor. And this is what it looks like. So again, I always have to make, and I really want to be clear that this is a disclaimer, a caveat that it's not 43-101, but we believe that in excess of 100 million ounces of silver have come out of these 8 ore shoots along 3.5 kilometers of vein corridor here. And so that gives us an idea of what to look for when we go into Napoleon and Cordon de Oro. And essentially our plan forward, our path forward, is to find as many ore shoots that are going to give us that 10 to 30 to 40 million ounces of resource as quickly as we can and rapidly drill those out. So knowing what that looks like in a mined out vein corridor is important. So what we're seeing as we move forward here across the district is 2 kilometers of strike on Napoleon. We're drilling 2 significant ore shoots on that currently. We've generated new ore shoot targets along that 2-kilometer trend. This is some very high grade material, and Napoleon is turning out to be certainly a pathway to ounces and resources for Vizsla. And we started that in the summer of 2020. So going into 2021, it will be an area of aggressive drilling. Currently 2 rigs turning on the Napoleon vein corridor. Now, actually, I always like to take some time, and I've heard someone saying to me that someone was talking about narrow veins on Vizsla, and so it's kind of interesting to look at this cross section here and kind of point out that in Mexico, I would say that the average grade of a resource going into production, an average width might be 2 meters of true width, an average grade may be somewhere around 350 grams per ton silver equivalent. Now, our initial drill discovery here with 6 meters of true width is just over 3 meters of 8 kilograms of silver equivalent. That was 1.8 kilograms of silver and over 2 ounces of gold, great base metals as well. We're also starting to see some other significant, we have significant wider discoveries, almost 5 meters of 1.8 kilograms of silver equivalent. Some of the more recent holes that we drilled at depth are 15 meters true width of nearly half a kilo of silver equivalent. So I don't know what the definition necessarily of narrow is, but 15 meters to me stands out as is quite impressive. And I think we're going to continue to see this type of wider intercepts at the project, combined with some of the more narrow high grade things, but together it creates an excellent opportunity for a couple of types of mining here. We can certainly look at the potential of open pitting Napoleon as well as underground mining. And these are some of this is a table of the drill results, but I've highlighted the most exciting ones there. The AGUITA ZARCA is the name of the discovery on Cordon de Oro. Again, not necessarily a narrow intercept here as well, 18 meters at 457 grams per ton silver equivalent. So this was basically at surface in a broader interval of nearly 70 meters at 140 grams per ton silver equivalent. So really quite impressive mineralization at surface here at AGUITA ZARCA, and where the north sign and the A is there, it's kind of you're just kind of right in front of the mill. So it's in a great position to have found this discovery, and in an area that we're seeing a lot of interesting veining and what could provide us with many more drill targets around here. So this was that original hole here, and you can see this is the Cordon de Oro main structure that runs through it, and so we'll continue to drill test this at depth. Now, I did mention that we do have five drill rigs turning, so again, we're very well funded for exploration next year. We won't have to raise any money to fund that. We have the 2 drill rigs turning on Napoleon, 1 at Tajitos, 2 at Cordon de Oro, and going forward, I could see that 2021 could add several more drill rigs to test new targets that we're generating. We've done an excellent job this year, and I think our team, having persisted through a COVID shutdown and a ramp up that was so significant to our exploration, they deserve a huge amount of credit because it's really impressive what they've done down there. But going forward, 2021 will be Mexico's most aggressive junior explorer driller. And so I touched on the size, I touched on the high-grade nature of the project, and then this is a way to describe the $23 million pathway to production. So we're caught up on our payments here for the option. In 2022, we have the right, or we have the obligation to make what we could consider a stronger payment, a higher payment of $2.6 million. But we would look to find ways that we could enter into production, own the mill and the infrastructure there soonest, and have that re-rating that you see from a district scale, high grade, a near-term producer of silver in Mexico. Now, we do have a team, you've heard from Craig already today, but we do have a team that's fully capable of executing this business plan. And I mentioned Charles Funk. Charles is, I consider one of the best exploration geologists out there, but he's supported by Stuart Smith, who's a PhD geologist. But another name that stands out here is Simon Smirlik, and Simon is the COO of Ausenco Engineering, the world's largest independent mine builder, and somebody that we were able to come to for advice as we move this project forward into production. So the 3 major takeaways that I'd like to touch on, again, is that we're very well funded. We have 5 drill rigs turning in Mexico. 2021 is going to be an excellent year for us. But the three things to remember when you think about Vizsla, and the takeaways are that we have the grade, we have the size, and we have this pathway to production. Okay. And now I'm going to do something, I don't know if it's been done yet on a webinar like this, but I'm just going to go into the next presentation as well too. And I'll give a little bit of background for that and reasoning for why I'm going to be talking about Tarachi as well. But I should start by saying that Lauren Warner was the CEO of Tarachi, and yesterday we made some announcements, and Lauren's done a fantastic job guiding Tarachi so far to this point, and Lauren is going to be helping us as VP Exploration there. But we've brought in a CEO that has some experience building tailings operations in Latin America, someone who has a strong mine building background. And the reason for that is because at Tarachi we're building Mexico's next high-grade gold producer. Now, I've just joined Tarachi as chairman. That was announced yesterday. We've had a bit of a flurry of news around Tarachi this week. We had management changes earlier in the week, and then of course we've had a new discovery or new drill results out of the La Dura historic mine at the Jabali project, which is part of the Mulatos district in Mexico. And you can actually see this is standing on our project looking over to the Mulatos open pit in Sonora there. It's some of the best exploration ground that I've seen in Mexico. And again, same old joke. I think the best is yet to come for Tarachi, so I'll be making forward-looking statements. So Tarachi really is it's a base. It's a platform for our team, and we have a great team at Tarachi. It's a platform for our team, basically to build Mexico's next mid-tier gold producer. And that platform is very well funded. We have $8 million in cash currently. I've just joined as chairman. Cam Teamstra has joined as CEO. He's a wealth of experience. He's a kind of a younger executive that's hungry for success as well too, and I think will bring a lot of great experience and energy to the company. And Lauren Warner, I'd want to point out as well, who's now on VP of Exploration, has many years, 30 years of finding gold in established camps and multi-million ounce gold camps. And one of those is the western extension of Detour Lake, which is an amazing story if you ever hear him tell it. But he discovered percentage precious metals, I think in the first drill hole there. So really quite an impressive career as a geologist. And we've just entered into well, we haven't just, but we're close to closing the transformative acquisition of the Magistral tailings plant. Magistral tailings plant is an already built, permitted, operating tailings processing facility in Durango, Mexico. Now, Durango's got a significant amount of these tailings operations. One you might be familiar with is Go Gold. They have that kind of underpinning their exploration in their company. And we were very lucky to have been able to acquire this because it was in very high demand. And the reason for that is the grade of the tailings material there. So 2 grams of gold, over 2 grams of gold, and we have just under 100,000 ounces of gold there. Now we've retained Ausenco to help us basically move forward with a compliant PEA, and then also move to production on this. And so 2021 will be an excellent year for moving the Magistral plant and operations forward and generating cash flow. And one thing to point out is, typically, there's looking at some tailings in the past, I think there's a few reasons why a company would be interested in processing tailings to start. And the one that stands out to me and why I think we're so eager with this opportunity is because what other company is able to capitalize on record high gold prices right now? If we're able to get into production and have record high gold prices for our product, I think that's a huge opportunity for us. And it also gives us, Tarachi gives us a platform to go and acquire new assets that can be built from that cash flow as well too. And that's the next step in becoming a mid-tier gold producer in Mexico. Now, in addition to the Magistral, there's also excellent exploration portfolio here in Tarachi. It's some of the best ground that I've seen in this area that was available, and was only available due to relationships with the Mexican mining family that controls a lot of this ranch land and mining land. And so we did a deal with the Mexican mining group there, and was able to bring in the portfolio projects called the Tarachi portfolio. Now it's in an area of Mexico that's prolific for discovery and production. 30 million ounces of gold, almost 500 million ounces of silver have been discovered there. And we have two major targets that we're focusing on right now. We have 2 rigs turning on the project. The San Javier shear zone historically is drilled up actually in excess of an ounce of gold over 5 meters. And the Jabalí area is an area that we trenched in the summer. We just announced this morning 20 meters at over 5 grams gold in a drill hole there, but we trenched over 6 grams over 60 meters at the Ladura historic mine. So we know that there's huge potential for high-grade gold here, and we're sitting literally in the shadows of one of Mexico's greatest open pits. So we are underway with a 5,000-meter drill program currently, and we'll continue to test the project. And again, Tarachi is an excellent platform for growth, and the reason for that is we're well funded. The share structure is excellent. 60 million shares outstanding, fully diluted 91. That 91 full dilution comes with, I believe, $12 million in cash as well. Very well held. Some similar shareholders to Vizsla, and including Commodity Capital and some other funds that came in the last financing. And directors, advisors, management, we own a significant portion of the company as well. It seems to have been consolidating here. Like a lot of the companies that we see right now, I think this is actually, it's interesting how this is all lined up, because we had the gold pullback, we had all these free trading dates that from all the financing 4 months ago, and I think going into the new year with the Biden and the Janet Yellen and all these catalysts for monetary printing, I think it's a perfect opportunity to be buying precious metal stocks right now. So a little bit more about the Magistral mill and property. For a mill, it's a large property package, 600 hectares, and that's in an area that's been producing gold since the 1600s. Not quite as long as Sinaloa as Panuco, but for several centuries at least. It includes a 1,000-ton per day permitted processing plant, a tailings deposit, a tailings pond, a resource, and our vendor has done an excellent job down there of creating relationships with the local ejido and the community. And we're talking about ESG. There's a share in the upside there for the ejido. So I was very impressed by that by the vendor there. And it's very easily accessible. Again, another comp for this is if anyone's familiar with Go Gold as their Parry tailings in the same general area. So there's significant history there, and I suppose the grades that they were mining back historically, were so high that they didn't mind leaving 2 grams of gold in the tailings. So it's an abnormally high gold grade, I would say, for tailings. Now, just quickly on the cluster of our projects here in the Tarachi trend. We basically break them up into two packages. One is the Tarachi North, and then the Tarachi South. So Tarachi North is near the Agnico Eagle's Tarachi resource, and I guess probably good to point out that Tarachi, the name comes from a town in the area. And currently we're drilling the San Javier shear zone. And then in the south, we're drilling basically sandwiched in between the India mine and the Mulatos mine, two excellent open pits there, is the Jabalí, the Ladura underground mine that we're drilling. So that's where we came back recently with 5 grams plus over 20 meters. And I'm encouraged by those results. I think that we're going to continue to make more discoveries in the area. And here's a schematic of the underground mining. You can see the main zone here dipping to the south. I think we're quite quite encouraged by what we see here so far, and more drilling will continue to bring more success here. So going forward, the rest of the year here and going into the new year, we'll continue with our 5,000 meter drill program. We do, as I said, have two rigs turning right now, one at the San Javier shear zone, and that again is the area that we're following up on over an ounce gold over 5 meters. So we know that there's high grade in that area. And then we're also drilling again to the south here at this Ladura area, which you can see in the photos. So two ways to win on the discovery program as we continue to put together the cash flowing asset in the background. And I think that Tarachi is way undervalued compared to its peers here, and as you can see, an enterprise value of about 14 million. It's kind of flattering to have Vizsla on the peer list here. That was good. So, you know, as you know, with discovery, as we've seen with Vizsla, but high grade discovery and a pathway to production, you do get a premium, or you get at least you get fully rewarded for discovery here. So we're seeing, I could see there'd be significant movement for Tarachi to catch up to some of its peers, including Raina at 84 million and Silver Viper at 34 million enterprise value. So in summary, Tarachi is moving from essentially a gold explorer in a prolific camp in Mexico to setting up a platform to create a mid-tier high-grade gold producer in some of the best areas to go mine gold, which is Sonora and Durango. And so I expect the acquisition to be completed shortly here. We're going to continue to drill, and that drilling, I think, you know, has already shown that it's been productive and returned great grades. But I could think it's going to continue to be impressive. And as we continue on, you know, we're building out the team, and again, Lauren's done such an excellent job getting the company set up and ready to take on this next phase, which is you know, will be led by Cam, who has experience in building these tailings operations. So again, it's a perfect platform for discovery and moving into production, and we're very well financed for 2021. Okay. Perfect.
Thanks, Mike. We have now one more presentation, and certainly last but not least, from Cherie Leeden, who is going to take us through the Gold Bull story. Gold Bull is, I suppose, the most recent entrant Inventa Capital company to sort of really debut and take a step forward onto the market. So Cherie, I think there's a lot of people out here who know nothing about Gold Bull. And just before Cherie starts, I wanted to remind people, if you do have questions, please put them in the question box. I'm compiling them and getting them ready to ask our presenters once Cherie is done. So take it away.
Thank you, Gwen. So Gold Bull is a new company. We were born about 3 months ago via the Inventa team, identifying a nice shell in QX Metals that we've then rebranded, renamed Gold Bull Resources Corp. We're listed on the TSX, and we are focused on gold exploration and development in the USA, in particularly in Nevada. And our goal is to come up with 5 million ounces of gold in the next couple of years via a combination of additional acquisitions and exploration success. Our management team are all based in the USA. I live in Nevada, so we're all on the ground, hands-on, and it's just our board who reside in Canada. We own 3 projects. Sandman was is our most recent acquisition from Newmont. That should be closing tomorrow. It's been a couple of days delayed due to COVID shutdowns over here with our title office. So as soon as we own Sandman, we intend to get the ball rolling to add on to those ounces that are already in the ground. We've also got 2 project pipeline assets, Big Boards and Coyote, and I'll go into a little more detail in these assets later on in the presentation. Got a very nice capital structure, 67 million shares on issue, providing us with a market cap of only about $33 million at the moment. Our market cap is essentially underpinned by the ounces in the ground that we already have at the Sandman asset. We've also got $7 million cash in the bank, and that's after we've made the payment for the Sandman project. I'm a geologist by background. I have about 20 years experience. The first half of my career was very much boots on the ground, looking at rocks in the middle of nowhere. And the last 10 years, I've been more of the corporate role, CEO type positions. I'm supported by some industry veterans. Craig and I go back about 15 years to when we worked at Rio Tinto together. David Johnson, our VP of Exploration, and I go back even further when we worked at Lion Ore together almost 20 years ago. So although the company is new and we're new to Gold Bull, we're not new to working with each other. We've been working together for a very long time, so really get along. And I've got a strong team of mine finders in this group, and we certainly think that we're going to add some ounces in the USA over the coming year or two. So getting into the projects, Sandman is our core asset at the moment. It's already got 310,000 ounces of defined gold, which is essentially sitting at the surface. And that resource was done in 2007. Since that resource was published, there's been a lot more drilling, predominantly by Newmont. So at the moment, we've got an updated 43101 resource estimate being commissioned. And the results of that are probably about another 8 weeks away, but I'm hoping that resource number is going to grow a little bit just from the existing data that's been done since that resource was published in 2007. But more importantly, we didn't buy this asset just for the 310,000 ounces that we know is there. We bought it for its exploration upside, and it's located about 25 kilometres along strike in very similar geology to the Sleeper deposit. And historically, Sleeper was one of the highest grade, most profitable deposits in Nevada. So we really like this area code for another Sleeper style deposit. And our maiden drill program, which we're hoping to commence sometime in late January, will be focused on both adding additional ounces to the known resource, but more importantly, we're looking for new discoveries within our massive land holding there. It's going to be a very telling couple of months of the project when we start drilling. We've currently commissioned a 3D IP geophysical survey, which is underway, and the results of that IP survey will also define precise drill hole locations for us to follow up early next year. In addition to Sandman, we have two other assets, Big Balds and Coyote. And I consider both these assets to be low risk, high reward, in that we don't need to spend a lot of money to work out whether we've got a world-class discovery located undercover on these two assets. So I'll start with Big Balds. Big Balds is located adjacent to Bald Mountain Mine, which is a Kinross operating asset with over 5 million ounces. We're less than 10 kilometres from that mine in very similar geology that's been overlain with cover. And as a result of that cover, it has never been explored, never been drilled. So we've acquired some geophysics that point to a very interesting anomaly. And we're currently in the process of doing additional detailed geophysics in the form of a magnetic survey. And that will define our precise drill hole locations for Big Balds. And we intend to drill that one sometime next year. So again, we're looking for world-class deposits. This is elephant country. We're on the Carlin trend, we're on the Bida trend, and we've got all these structural conduits that have lit up in the geophysics. So super exciting project where we can put a few drill holes, and after those drill holes, we'll either know whether we've got it right or we'll move on. And Coyote is another one of those projects where after a small geophysical program and a few drill holes, we'll either have a significant discovery or it'll be time to move on. We've got 12 grams a ton of gold sitting at the surface, and the silver numbers are phenomenal. Over 5,000 grams a ton silver accompanying that gold. It was historically mined almost like a quarry in the 80s, and there's a lack of technical geological studies that have been done on this project despite those compelling grades at the surface. Our geologist has confirmed we've got an outcropping, highly prospective geological unit that goes for almost 500 meters. And then that dips to the east and the west undercover. So we're not sure how large in strike this feature actually is, but it's looking super interesting from the preliminary work, and it's another one that we really are looking forward to drilling next year. So why Gold Bull? Well, in addition to those three exciting projects that we intend to drill in 2021, we're already cashed up to do that work. I'm spending a lot of my time looking at new opportunities. So I've got a fantastic team led by David Johnson, our VP of Exploration, who are looking to add ounces on our existing three assets, while I'm looking to add ounces via additional acquisitions. And on that note, we're under CA on a couple of projects that are looking really interesting, and we've got a technical team that are appraising that data to work out whether it's the right fit for Gold Bull. And in short, if I can acquire ounces cheaper than we can explore for the ounces, then I think it's a pretty good deal. So we've got a lot of news flow coming up. We'll have the updated geophysical survey results both at Big Balls and Sandman coming up in the coming months. The updated 43-101 report for Sandman is due in January, and by the time we receive all that data, we should have the drill rig churning at Sandman to test some of our very interesting targets, both in the known mineralization areas and also in these new targets that have never been drilled before. So 2021 is going to be a big year for the company. It's a defining year, our first real year on the ground, and we're certainly looking forward to trying to come up with some more ounces for the company.
Thanks, Cherie. Great quick run-throughs of all three companies. Cherie gets points for conciseness, Mike. Cherie, since you just finished, I'll start with one or two questions for you. I guess, I mean, the premise of Gold Bull is looking for ounces in the US, in Nevada in particular. You're far from alone in doing that. Lots of people are interested in Nevada as a jurisdiction and an opportunity, a place where majors are interested and whatnot. What advantages do you and your team have in terms of finding those ounces or assets in such a popular area?
Sure, we've got a team of mine finders, and we think outside the box, I'd say, compared to your average explorers in this wonderful state. We're also largely driven by geophysics. David Johnson, our VP, is a geophysicist, which is an unusual move. You don't see many VPs of exploration with a geophysics background. They're typically geologists. Yeah, we believe that most of the new discoveries are going to come from undercover exploration, and geophysics is going to play a really important role in that. We've also got a great relationship with several of the majors, and I think that's been proven with our recent acquisition of the Sandman asset from Newmont. And I didn't get into it earlier, however, Walter Cole, CEO of Skeena, has recently joined our board as a director, and what Walter and Craig have achieved in Skeena is something that I'd really love to replicate in Gold Bull, in that there's real opportunity to go for non-core assets of the majors and to create a mid-tier company via non-core major assets. And we believe we've got the financial backing and capacity to raise money for these acquisitions, and are very fortunate to have secured Sandman on such favorable terms, and are hoping that's the first of many.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, the major mergers in Nevada and the shifts that's in focus that's created probably are loosening up some assets that have been held tight for some time. Is that something that you're seeing?
Absolutely, and you know, we're in a fortunate position. We've got a wonderful, supportive cornerstone share registry. So we do believe that we've got that access to capital, and a lot of our junior peers struggle a little bit more with respect to the access to capital. So we believe we've got both the expertise and the access to cash to go for some of these acquisitions from the majors.
For sure. Okay, Mike, I'm going to ask one or two questions of Tarachi here. I mean, first of all, for the Magistral project, I've had a couple questions come in about Magistral, sort of the size of Tarachi as a company versus the ambitious plan to get this project into production. Can you talk about what are the big needs or timelines or dollar amounts that you think? I know that none of this is set in stone yet. What is the pathway to getting Magistral into production?
So the plant is already built there. The next steps include basically optimizing that, and that'll come after a study done by Ausenco Engineering. We've initiated that. So timeline, you know, I think aggressively, you know, 2021 could be a transformative year. I don't know if I want to say it will be in production by then, but you know, in essence, it's permitted, it's operational, it's already built. So a lot of that cost and time, you know, is already been sunk into it. Now, of course, we want to be operating that on a you know, Canadian level, on a safe and you know, profitable, meaningful way. So you know, for us to partner with and retain a company like Ausenco, I think you know, that will guide us in terms of how we need to approach the next steps. Again, we've also built out the team to include not only Cam, who's experienced and has expertise in this place, but as well as a fellow who's joined us recently, and kind of in the role of someone that would likely move into COO, who's one of the most creative engineers that we've kind of encountered as a group. So we're building the team to help us do this rapidly, but also cost effectively.
Gotcha. Okay. Someone else had a bit of an interesting question, which is, Tarachi, as you said, has been busy on the news front recently, and has had, put out 5 or 6 sort of solid news releases in the last few months, including the acquisition of Magistral, and yet the share price hasn't really responded. What comments do you have about that? I mean, gold has been doing what it's been doing. Magistral was a transformative event. What comments do you have about that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It just kind of really shows, a lot of the times you kind of look at these things and you think, oh, I wish that this would respond better or what have you. But I think what's important is just making sure that the companies are well funded and are able to, get this fundamental work done and build value, despite what noise the market's giving. And then, we saw that in the summer when, as soon as gold prices turned, it was such a rapid doubling, tripling of share prices and market caps. So, I think there's a few external factors that maybe translated into lower investor excitement, perhaps, or it's also timed with, like I was talking about before, 4-month holds coming off of financings and things like that. But I'm very confident that as we continue to get out there, tell the story of and talk about the vision we have for Tarachi, continue to have success there, that I think the market will respond very favorably, and I imagine 2021 will be an excellent year for Tarachi.
Fair enough. It does take a while for the market to reorient to a new story, especially when the story was, well, brand new to begin with. Over on the Vizsla side, you certainly summarized the exploration focus as, you're looking to identify multiple 30 to 40 million ounce high grade shoots along the 75 kilometers of vein extent, of vein strike that you have at Panuco. How would you characterize sort of your options when it comes to targets? Do you have a lot of targets? Are you short on targets when you need, because it takes a lot of targets to come up with multiple significant vein shoots?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something, looking at that Animus, those 8 ore shoots over that 3.5 kilometers, that Animus gives us kind of a framework to work within. So we've kind of shifted our focus in a way the last half of the year, because we've got 5 drill rigs turning, we've got everything, we've got all the potential and all the ability there to make these big discoveries. So what's important to us? Well, the important thing is to find an ore shoot that can give us a rapid path to 10 to 40 million ounces of silver. So what we've done is generate targets, and probably the last news release that we put out this year is going to be where do we go next? What are these targets that we've been quietly assembling in the background? What do those look like, and what's got us most excited for next year when we add more rigs to the project? So, so in order to ensure we're not wasting time on small ore shoots, we drill and kill quickly. And if we are staying at an ore shoot, then that's a sign that we think it has that pathway to meaningful ounces.
Fair enough. I'm going to wrap up pretty quick here because we've been over an hour and I don't like to take up too much of everyone's time. Cherie, I might finish with a question for you. Gold Bull is still a pretty new entity. You've obviously worked in Nevada for many years, and you've probably been sort of, in the back of your mind wanting to take on a challenge of this caliber for a while. So, I mean, talk about how it feels to, be able to be part of the Inventa Capital Group, and the abilities that's given you as you start on this pathway. I mean, I know when you were first introducing me to Gold Bull, one of the things you were most excited about was the people you were able to pick up for the company. And I mean, to me, that starts with, having the capital, to, having the support to be able to get out there and sign those people on. So you just talk a little bit about how it all came together and what that means for what the company you think might be able to accomplish.
Sure. The concept of Gold Bull was born over a year ago when I learned about a couple of assets becoming available, one of which was Sandman. And Craig and I got talking at Roundup, I think it was last year, and decided that we'd love to do something with a couple of these gold assets. So typically my model was to find homes for them and move them on. So it's really rewarding to see assets that you believe in grow into producing assets. So when we came across Sandman and some other assets that aren't yet in the fold that we're hoping to get, we thought that it would be a great opportunity to do something. And obviously Mike and Craig have done a wonderful job in creating Inventa in the last couple of years, which has grown from strength to strength. So I felt like it was a perfect marriage for my technical expertise and my team that are based in the US to partner with the Inventa team and to do something collaboratively. We've got everything covered in the US with respect to moving these projects forward. However, obviously you need to also be in touch with the markets, and during these COVID times, international travel isn't as easy as it used to be. So I feel really confident that Craig, Mike and the team have got us covered with respect to our Canadian IR and marketing and really being in touch with those capital markets, which is really a vital part of the story. And we've got everything covered from the US with respect to environmental and social good governance and also advancing these assets. We've got the people here. So unlike a lot of companies, we're not really hindered by COVID, and I feel privileged to be working with the likes of Mike and Craig to create this company to something special.
Well, I think that's that probably about wraps it up. Craig, I haven't heard from you in a while. Is there anything you want to throw in as a final thought there before we say goodbye?
No, well, yeah, thanks, Gwen. Thank you. And we've had a good crowd here today, so thank you very much for hosting us. Hopefully that gives everyone a little bit of a taste of what we're doing, and you can see the quality of the leadership that we have and the projects. We have a number of other companies that we've been working on. We're now working with Surge Copper, and Surge is a bit of a market darling today, and we're another company called Outback Goldfields, which a little bit earlier stage than what we normally do, but we've got some fantastic projects down in the Victorian goldfields of Australia. So everyone should take a look at those, and more to come. And the last thing I would leave you with is that our group, if you could include Skeena, which I'm the chairman of course, and ISO Energy, we've raised over $170 million in the past 8 months, which doesn't put us at the top of the league, but we're certainly getting up there. It gives you an idea of the sort of availability of capital to our companies. And so there's more of that to come. We've got a hell of a lot of work going on. I think across those group of companies there's about 22 drill rigs turning today. So look out for a huge amount of news flow from all of them over the coming months. And Gwen, always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Craig, Mike, and Cherie. Thanks everyone for listening. I think I thought it was a useful event. I love the ability to sort of illuminate other aspects of the market and how these companies come together and operate and are supported. If you have any questions for any of these, anybody who was on the call today, everybody is easy to find, or get in touch with the webinar organizers, and they can point you in the right direction. But otherwise, thanks everyone so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Gwen.
Thanks, Gwen.
Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.